What's up guys, my name is David and welcome back to Basically Star Wars and welcome back to another episode of my DCEU movie review series. But on that note, I'm actually not going to review all the DCEU movies because I just don't have the motivation. I don't have the motivation to rewatch Suicide Squad or Justice League and then write a script and then film it and then edit it. I just don't have the motivation to do it for those movies. Wonder Woman and Shazam are cool, but once again, don't have the motivation. I will be discussing Aquaman because my buddy Oric told me that it's basically Star Wars but underwater, and that sounds awesome. Once again, I apologize that you won't get a review for any of the other DCU movies, but I doubt anybody was sitting desperately waiting for basically Star Wars to talk about Shazam, so I think we should be good, but just wanted to let you guys know. But I am very excited today to talk about one of my favorite, yes, you heard that correctly, one of my favorite comic book movies of all time, that being Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice, directed by the Lord himself, Zack Snyder. Let's get into it. In all seriousness, I do really love this movie, but Zack Snyder is a good director. I feel like he is very talented with these modern, dramatic superhero movies. I think that's really up his alley. I'm not a Snyder cultist or shill. I think his movies do have flaws. Man of Steel and this movie have flaws, and I'm not a shill to him. I will admit there is problems with his movies, but more importantly, the community, his fans, are some of the most toxic people ever. So when I make jokes praising him, just know I'm not one of the bad ones. Before we continue, I have a couple shoutouts to give. First, my buddy Nolan Talks Movie also has a BVS video on his channel. And second, go subscribe to JFighter11. He has a very underrated, small film-based YouTube channel. He has a fantastic Dark Knight video. So yeah, go give him some support. All of those links will be in the description. So as you know, there is two cuts of this movie. The theatrical cut, which was shown in theaters in 2016, and then the Ultimate Edition, which is better. For some bizarre reason, my father was just, he would not take me to go see it in 2016. It wasn't because I was too young. I was already 12, almost 13 when it came out, so I was very much like age appropriate to see it, but he just didn't take me. He did not want to sit through Batman vs. Superman, and honestly, the first time watching it through, I don't blame him. It's a very tedious movie to watch for the first time. As much as I would love to have seen it on the big screen, I think 12-year-old David would not have appreciated it as much as I do now. When you walk into a movie called Batman vs. Superman, you expect something awesome and just non-stop action and then like an epic fight that lasts like 30 minutes. That's not this movie. It is a drama, political thriller that happens to have Batman and Superman, and then there's like a 5-minute fight. But then I saw it on rental, and I was like, yeah, all the critics are right about this, because I was so obsessed with following the critics, especially my two favorites, or my three favorites, Jeremy John, Chris Stuckman, and Andre Black Nerd. And all the reviews that I read and just watched, I wasn't reading reviews back then. All the reviews that I watched, they were just like very negative or just kind of meh about it, so when I watched it, I was just kind of following that bandwagon. And then about a year ago, I came back to it, rewatched it, and this was still a theatrical cut, and I actually really enjoyed it that time. I was, of course, a little bit older, and this time I really appreciated that it was a political thriller and drama surrounding two of my favorite characters. The theatrical cut is really messy, but the ideas and the themes are still in the theatrical cut, and I really appreciated that time. Then about 4 months ago, I gave the Ultimate Edition a watch. I actually seen it twice now. It's very good. It is a very good. It's so much better. It is so much better. And not in a way like, oh my god, it was garbage and now this is like a hidden masterpiece. It's not that much of a contrast. It's just all the ideas that are in the theatrical cut are just expanded on. It's just an ultimate edition of an already good movie that, at least in my opinion, I think it's a pretty good movie. It's 30 minutes of extra content, and most of that is in the beginning, and lots of it's just investigation. It's lots of Bruce Wayne investigating Superman, but a lot of Superman investigating Bruce Wayne. In the theatrical cut, everything is implied. In the Ultimate Edition, they just show it. This is what happens, and now it's going to make more sense. For example, the opening scene on the desert, like, it's inferred that Superman is blamed, but here you see them burning bodies, you see this one woman talking to Congress, and then later you find out she's basically a fake. It's just so much better. I don't want to sound like one of those people who just hate the theatrical cut and then just like, oh my god, it's so much better, creative control ruins everything. I still think that the original cut is still a competent movie with some great ideas, and once again, the Ultimate Edition just makes it better. I don't want to spend the entire video just comparing the two, so let's get into what I actually liked about the movie, besides just it being a fun political thriller with two of my favorite characters. So I think a good place to start is Batfleck. I do like Ben Affleck as Batman. I think he's a good Bruce Wayne and a good Batman, but he kills, and I'm not sure how to feel about that. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm a comic book purist, but I know Batman has a rule, and that's he doesn't kill. And here he does kill, so, I mean, it's frustrating. I wish he didn't kill, but I kind of understand why he did. He lost Robin. He obviously experienced lots of tragedy, but every Batman experienced tragedy. So I just don't know how to feel about it. But then you go back to the 80s Batman, he killed like crazy. It's plain and simple, I don't like that, but it doesn't fundamentally bug me. It just doesn't. I guess because I'm just not into the comic books. I just recently, not recently, but like 3 years ago, I figured out that that was a rule of his. So maybe if I was more attached to the source material, I'd be more upset. But as it stands right now, just in my humble opinion, I don't like that he kills, but it doesn't ruin the movie for me. Next character I would like to talk about is Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor Jr. That's important to emphasize that he is the son of Lex Luthor. And hot take, I really love this Lex Luthor and Eisenberg's performance as Lex Luthor. On paper, all the dialogue that Lex Luthor says is very Lex Luthor type of dialogue, but I like this more modern, kind of quirky intellectual who's just upset with God on Earth. I find it interesting, and I feel it just works for me. It really does. It all comes down to subjective opinion at the end of the day, but just this interpretation and this performance, I really enjoy. Speaking about him, his whole God speech I find really interesting, and then his creation of Doomsday, which I will admit looks generally pretty awful. Doomsday as a concept and as a monster that Lex Luthor would create, it all makes sense because he basically hates God, and Superman is God on Earth, so it makes sense that he would create a devil to kill God. And it gives us a final, third act just CGI mess, and superhero movies have that. And yeah, it's not anything revolutionary, it's definitely not polished, but it's there, it's fun enough, and Superman dies in a cool way. Going back to the title of this movie, Batman vs. Superman, the fight itself is really good. It's an epic 10 minutes of action, give or take, and yeah, it's really good. It's not the reason I like this movie, like, at all. Once again, to reiterate that, it's because I really like the political aspect of this movie surrounding two of my favorite characters. There are flaws in this movie, but the concepts and some of the great moments outweigh some of those cons, and making this one of my favorite comic book movies of all time. I will give Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice a B+. Real quick, I want to touch on this line. Everybody makes fun of it, and I can understand maybe it sounds a little silly or whatever. The reason I have slight issue with it is because this line is basically Batman realizing he was wrong. He was obsessed with this alien that he was convinced was a villain, and then he's like, okay, maybe he's not that bad. The reason I have an issue with that line is because this is supposed to be the part where he regains his humanity, but then he still goes out and kills like 5 minutes later. So that's my issue with that line. Maybe it sounds a little cheesy, I don't know, but I don't like that he kills after that moment. Anyways, that is the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, then you probably will enjoy this channel, so please consider subscribing. I will see you in the next video. May the force be with you.